It's Monday, March 9th, 2026. Apocalypse in Tehran, oil prices go parabolic, and pining for the days of homegrown meth. Next on the AM Update. Apocalyptic scenes out of Tehran, Iran, as coalition that would be U.S. and Israeli forces struck a series of oil depots and other oil infrastructure, lighting up the skies over Tehran overnight Saturday into Sunday. Black rain could be seen falling from the skies in the early morning hours of Sunday morning. That sky, that rain saturated with oil covering rooftops and streets in the murky liquid. Eerie photos showed Tehran shrouded in smoke and covered in black clouds. Those scenes unfolding out of Tehran, some of the most iconic in a weird way photos that I have seen so far out of this conflict. The Iranian Red Crescent humanitarian organization warned that the explosions seen overnight at Tehran's oil depots released a significant quantity of toxic hydrocarbon compounds, sulfur, and nitrogen oxides. The city became covered in oil flowing in a series of airstrikes that hit 4 oil storage facilities and a production center in Tehran and Al-Borz. That's according to Iran's Fars news agency. On the topic of other matters, Iran blamed the United States for striking a desalinization plant that would be making salt water fresh water for drinking and other uses. Here's what Trump had to say about that accusation.
Respond to that allegation. Did the U.S. hit the desal?
They are among the most evil people ever on earth. They cut babies' heads off. They chop women in half. What they did, take a look at October 7th. Take a look at what they've done over the last 47 years. So I know nothing about a desalinization plant other than to say if they're complaining about a desalinization plant, we complain about the fact that they shouldn't be chopping babies' heads off, okay?
So there's President Trump saying, nope, we didn't strike any desalinization plant, and even if we did, this murderous regime responsible for thousands, if not tens of thousands, of murders of their own citizens just in recent weeks. That is correct reframing there from President Trump. By the way, according to N12 News in Israel, that's one of their biggest news outlets, they have sources saying that the United Arab Emirates were actually the ones who attacked the desalinization facility in Iran. So that is an interesting story to keep an eye on. Also, emerging over the weekend, fractures in Iran's leadership command. It's basically 2 different countries right now, one run by the IRG, the other by the formal government. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian issued a statement apologizing for attacks this past week against neighboring countries, claiming that some attacks were carried out independently by regional commanders without directive due to loss of communication, further stating that the Temporary Leadership Council has ordered a halt to these attacks on these countries unless their territory is used to attack Iran. So that is the formal government. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian apologizing for attacks on their neighbors. That's the formal government. The view from the IRGC is this. Brigadier General Kalabif directly contradicted President Pezeshkian over the weekend, stating that Iran will continue attacking neighboring countries hosting U.S. forces. So again, features on full display less than a week into the conflict in Iran. Also, catching a stray, the United Kingdom. Seen a lot of chatter about this over the weekend. Coalition, NATO forces, other allies in the Middle East, other interests in the Middle East, very, very, very unhappy with the United Kingdom and their conduct in the lead up to the conflict in Iran. President Trump saying this in passing over the weekend, quote, "The United Kingdom, while once great ally, maybe the greatest of them all, is finally giving serious thought to sending 2 aircraft carriers to the Middle East. That's okay, Prime Minister Starmer. We don't need them any longer, but we will remember we don't need people joining the war after we've already won." I've heard reporting from numerous sources, citing anonymous sources from Saudi Arabia, from Bahrain, other places around the Middle East, absolutely furious with things like the United Kingdom not allowing the United States to use Diego Garcia, joining in the fight, not sharing intelligence until the fighting had already begun, and they realized how big they'd screwed the United States over. That's a major story to keep an eye on moving forward. Let's go to this. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth told 60 Minutes he's not worried about people like Russia helping the Iranians.
CBS News has 3 sources telling us that Russia is providing intelligence to Iran on U.S. positions and movements. The average American might hear that and think that's a big and dangerous deal. Is it?
Well, we're tracking everything. Our commanders are aware of everything. We have the best intelligence in the world. We're aware of who's talking to who, why they're talking to them, how accurate that information might be, how we factor that into our battle plans, our CENTCOM commander. So we know what's going on. And the president has an incredible knack at knowing how to mitigate those risks. And so the American people can rest assured their commander-in-chief is well aware of who's talking to who, and anything that shouldn't be happening, whether it's in public or back-channeled, is being confronted and confronted strongly.
The American people can therefore expect conversations with the Russians to stop this?
Well, President Trump, as people have seen, has a unique relationship with a lot of world leaders where he can get things done that other presidents, certainly Joe Biden, never could have. And through direct conversations or indirect, through him one-to-one or through his cabinet, messages definitely can be delivered.
Does this put U.S. personnel in any more danger than they otherwise would be?
Well,
the Russian involvement?
No one's putting us in danger. We're putting the other guys in danger. That's our job. So we're not concerned about that. We mitigate it as we need to. Our commanders factor all of this, but the only ones that need to be worried right now are Iranians that think they're going to live.
Secretary of War Pete Hegseth does not dismiss the fact that hostile governments like Russia providing intel to Iran, but notes that we are the danger, not them. Let's go back home. Jobs numbers released on Friday, very rough. 92,000 jobs lost in February, a miss from the 60,000 or so expected additions to the job market. December and January jobs revised 69,000, lower than previously reported. Also, to contextualize this as well, data shows foreign-born workers have lost over 500,000 jobs in the last year. Native-born workers in the United States gained 128,000 jobs as a result of the ongoing conflict in Iran and the uncertainty over the Strait of Hormuz, a critical really choke point for global energy production. Oil prices, oil futures shot up to over $90 a barrel as of this recording. To give you some perspective, around this time last month, oil prices around February 10th or so, they were around $60 a barrel. On Friday morning, they were about $80 a barrel, and by Friday afternoon, $90 a barrel. Let's go back to this as well. Kristi Noem, boy, that story is nasty. What's being alleged? I told you about this in passing on Friday. She needed to go. She was not good. She was causing major issues for the White House, so she definitely needed to go. Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin, though, is her successor at DHS. And not exactly happy about that, at least some people I've seen, for comments like this in the aftermath of J6. And he actually says the shooting, the murder of Ashley Babbitt was justified.
I guarantee you, I don't know for a fact, but I guarantee you he's never had to pull his weapon in a manner like that before. He was the last person in the world that ever wanted to use force like that. And he wasn't wanting to do that. I know for a fact, because after it happened, he came over and he was physically and emotionally distraught. And I actually gave him a hug. And I said, "Sir, you did what you had to do." And I mean that. Unfortunately, the young lady, her family's life has changed, and it was an unfortunate situation that she lost her life and some people lost their loved ones. But the lieutenant's life has also changed too, because if it's the first time you've ever had to use lethal force, that doesn't ever leave you. And it wasn't his choice. He didn't show up to work that day to have to do that. He was doing his job, and he got put in a situation where he had to do his job because there was members still in the balcony. And if you're going to present your weapon in a manner and give commands and they still don't listen and they still approach, you don't have a choice, because either you have to at that point discharge your weapon in a manner of self-defense, or that weapon's going to be taken away from you. It's going to be used on you, and it's going to put all of our lives in danger too. That's
President Trump's pick for leading DHS. Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin, who says the officer who shot Ashley Babbitt at point-blank range was justified in doing so. I've kind of seen reaction kind of all over the place to that story, to this pick of Markwayne Mullin for DHS. Just make the deportations number go up. I don't care what you've said in the past. I don't care what you'll continue to say. As long as the deportations continue, morale will improve. Well, Montana Senator Steve Daines turned a lot of heads late last week when he, at the very last minute, about 5 minutes till the filing deadline had passed, he withdrew his name from re-election, allowing another Republican candidate, Kurt Almy, I believe, to be his heir as Montana senator. If he had done this earlier, if he had made this announcement earlier that he's not seeking re-election, Democrats, Montana would have been on the table for Democrats. As it stands, though, it does not seem like that's the case. Steve Daines, Montana senator, with this news, it circulated an old video from 2021 when the Montana senator pined for the good old days of home-cooked hard drugs.
The flood of Mexican meth, Mexican heroin, Mexican fentanyl. 20 years ago in Montana, meth was homemade. It was homegrown. And it had purity levels less than 30%. Today, the meth that is getting into Montana is Mexican cartel.
Imagine being a politician and thinking through things. I mean, when you watch this video, there are people in the background laughing at him. Being a politician and ever even considering pining for the good old days of homegrown meth and other hard drugs. When we come back, what do we have here? A new report from the New York Post alleges, or at least insinuates, that there's a pretty possible link to the prison where Epstein was, done in one way or another, and a security guard there. It's raising some questions. Also, tornadoes in the Midwest, and a new poll of young people and socialism. We'll talk about all that and more coming up next. Well, what do we have here? One of Jeffrey Epstein's prison guards Googled the sex predator minutes before he was found dead, and also made a mysterious $5,000 cash deposit 10 days before the predator's jail cell suicide. That's according to new Department of Justice documents. This report is from the New York Post. Tova Noel was one of the 2 Metropolitan Correctional Center workers accused of falsifying records to say they checked on Epstein throughout the night before his August 10th, 2019, quote-unquote, suicide. The guards were fired, but criminal charges against both were later dropped. Noel, this prison guard, Googled, quote, latest on Epstein in jail at 5:42 a.m. and then again at 5:52 a.m., less than 40 minutes before her colleague, Correctional Officer Michael Thomas, found the disgraced financier dead in his cell by hanging at 6:30 a.m. Again, these are according to FBI records. Earlier in that shift, Noel, again this prison guard, shopped for furniture online and snoozed on the job instead of making the mandated checks on Epstein every 30 minutes, while Thomas perused motorcycles, according to prosecutors. The FBI highlighted the eerie internet searches in its 66-page forensic examination of the Bureau of Prisons desktop computers of Noel and Thomas. It was the only search highlighted. Also, mysterious bank records. A total of 12 deposits began in April of 2018 and culminated in the largest deposit for $5,000 on July 30th, 2019, just a few days before Epstein was found dead. The files only contains Noel's bank records beginning in December of 2018. They show 7 cash deposits totaling $11,880. So that is not suspicious at all. We've got prison guards Googling things that maybe you probably shouldn't Google before Epstein was found dead. And also mysterious cash deposits in her bank account in the lead up to Epstein's suicide. Towns across the Midwest and Plains are picking up the pieces after severe weather outbreaks spawned numerous damaging tornadoes that killed at least 8 people and injured dozens more. Deaths have been reported in Union City, Michigan, where 3 were dead and 12 were injured. Edwardsburg, Michigan, 1 dead, several injured. Okmulgee County, Oklahoma, 2 deaths. Major County, Oklahoma, 2 deaths. The storms were ongoing over the weekend and expected to bring damaging winds, large hail, and a few tornadoes. Thoughts and prayers to everybody in the path of those storms. Not exactly rare this time of year, but the severity of those storms and the death toll of these storms in early March, that is noteworthy. A new Fox News poll asks whether it would be a good or bad thing for the U.S. to move away from capitalism and more towards socialism. 38% say that's a good thing, a record high. Bad thing, still at 61%. Amongst the youths, not really the youths towards the middle-aged, 18 to 44-year-olds, 52% say it would be a good thing. Those above the age of 45 years old say it's just at 29% that it would be a good thing. Democrats, 55% say it would be a good thing. Republicans, 22%. Independents, 38% say it would be a good thing. College educated, 36% say it would be a good thing. No college education, higher actually, 39% say it would be a good thing. Well, let's go to this. For air analysis, slightly acidic, mostly necessary. Throughout the first week of the operation in Iran, Operation Epic Fury, I have witnessed and taken note of a very distinct and unmistakable trend on X, which is my primary social media account. Now, I need to provide the caveat. I understand that algorithm idiosyncrasies can impact each and any given account in bespoke and unique ways. So I may be the exception more than the rule. But this trend that I've noted has been so distinct in the past week that I'm wondering if anyone else has noticed it. From the hours of around 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. here stateside, the narratives surrounding the Iran war on my For You feed, that's the algorithm feed, are unmistakably pro-Israel and America. Loads of combat footage straight from these governments, conveying utter domination. From the hours of 1 p.m. to around 11 p.m. stateside, the narrative changes drastically. You'd think not that coalition forces are being routed per se, but the overarching narrative seems geared on planting doubt in the effort as a whole and doubt in coalition capabilities. This especially ramps up around 7 to 9 p.m. So what is the explanation for this? What's the explanation for this? Now, it could just be as simple as, well, that's when people on the other side of the planet, that's when they're awake. And so we're hearing from them more often. Or it could be that the hours of 1 p.m. to 11 p.m. coincide almost 1-to-1 with the working day in Beijing. I'm sure it's just a coinkydink. That's going to do it for Monday. Back at it again tomorrow. I'm Aaron McIntire, and this is the AM Update.